Bree, before we begin, as we inform all of our guests, this is going to be recorded. The voices are going to be distorted. We're going to preserve your anonymity. So we're only going to post the audio portion for everybody to publicly scrutinize our opinions because we feel it's important. We feel it's absolutely important to have all our views out on the table, all our cards out on the table, so we're not having any kind of underhanded dealings, and all our views are free and open to public scrutiny so that we can get the best view possible. Because that's how we believe we can only get the best view possible, is that the most eyes are on our views and can critically poke holes in any of our weaknesses. And also, we feel like the truth will be strengthened by critical scrutiny, so we're not afraid of it. We want these views to come out publicly. We want people to see what we're about, and we want people to hear what you're about. So, just to let you know, we're going to be recording this. Do you agree to have this recorded?
I agree.
Perfect. All right. Let's start off. Just give us a little background. You don't have to go into, detail where you're born or whatnot, but just what's your background into your concern for either feminism, men's rights, men's issues, women's issues, or just kind of get a little gist of where you're coming from.
First and foremost, I'm an egalitarianist. I'm a
okay, what's that? I'm sure a lot of people will be confused with terms like, even, you throw the term around feminist, and most people are like, oh, you mean those chicks with the butch haircuts and that are 300 pounds that are angry and have 500 cats? Or do you mean like the neo-feminists who are into, breast cancer awareness? So there's so many different camps. So let's help everybody out that's going to be listening to define our terms a little bit.
So an egalitarianist is a humanist, and it's also
a humanist, which is
it's someone who believes in equality regardless of gender.
Okay,
race,
so equality for cats too?
Yeah, I love my cat.
Equality for cats. Okay, hang on, let me shut the door just to make sure I get no noise. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah.
So equality for cats, people, grass, everybody. All right.
Except pigs, because I like bacon.
Okay, I love bacon too, so I would say we don't extend those rights to pigs. Otherwise, I can't have my bacon, egg, and cheese burrito in the morning. So I totally agree with you. No rights for pigs. Okay.
No rights. But yeah, I first got introduced to men's rights by Girl Rights What, and I always felt that
Girl Rights What. Okay, so that's kind of she's kind of a known woman in the men's rights circles. Most of them are worshiping at her feet. She, believe it or not, she has more balls than probably 99.999% of the MRAs, the men's rights activists out there. So it's pretty sad. It's pretty telling that this woman has more balls than all the men there combined.
I think you should tell that to her OBGYN,
Yeah, I'd love to help examine her mind, I mean. Get to the bottom of her. Okay, so you're familiar with her work, I suppose, on YouTube or through other written means. Every now and then she posts. So you came across her work. You listened to some of her videos, I take it?
Yeah, and I was really interested in it because I never really felt that.
I've tried to listen to some of her videos too, but she's obviously very thoughtful, but her voice just sounds like this when she's talking sometimes, and it sounds like this, and it's like 5 hours of talking like this, and I don't know if I can stand that without shooting myself.
Yeah, she's very monotonious. I'll give her that. I'll say that.
So not the most exciting, but obviously educated in these issues.
I think that it's important when we look at issues, sociological issues, that we really try to look at all aspects. And I felt like feminism really ignored some of the aspects of what the men were going through at that point in time when feminism arose. And I think that today feminism has evolved to a place where it seems like women's hierarchy of needs is put higher than men's, and I don't agree with that.
Okay, let's backtrack a little bit. I understand what you're saying here because a lot of women are, well, I wouldn't say a lot. We've started to see women here and there voicing their concerns with what's going on in feminism today. I just saw a recent kind of issue going on where there was a woman who was recently arrested for making 11 false rape allegations. Now, I was thinking, what happened during the other 10? She should have been in jail after the first one, but obviously she had a long history of making these false allegations, and finally she's going to jail. So obviously, the 10 other times she was making all those false allegations, she just got a light slap on the wrist. Meanwhile, she's devastating and ruining men's lives left and right, and nothing's being done. So we're seeing a little concern from women, whereas usually when you talk about false rape allegations without a specific case, like this is so blatant, egregious, and obvious, people are prone to say, oh, why do you hate women? It's the automatic knee-jerk response is, why do you hate women? Because you're making accusations that women make false rape allegations. The implication is women never lie. So if you're claiming that somebody's lying, obviously you hate women. So even critical thought by feminists is silenced. The very discussion, the notion of this discussion is frightening to feminists.
Even as a woman, it's the same interaction as a woman where I can talk to a woman about, problems with feminism and I'm shut down and I'm told that,
So you're even seeing this from a woman's point of view. You're even seeing the negative influence and they're calling you a trait. Oh my God, I can't believe you hate your own gender? What's wrong with you?
And they'll make sexist remarks to me based on, how they perceive, my appearance or, how men perceive me. And I'm like,
what do you mean your appearance? Are you wearing, G-strings or what do you mean specifically?
No. I mean, I recently had a post and it was about how a woman patronized me because she said that I didn't know about women's suffering because I'm young and pretty.
Okay.
And it was such
young pretty girls shouldn't be giving their opinions on women. Okay.
Exactly. It was such a pat on the head, like, you're so young and naive and pretty and airheaded, and it was just, it was really bothersome to me because I wouldn't take that from a man. I mean,
right.
I would say to a man, hey, that's cool that you think that, but meh, But it made me mad because they wouldn't take that from a man and they treated me like that as a woman,
Interesting.
It's sexist within the feminist agenda.
Now, when feminists say that women were oppressed, our claim is that at no time were women systematically oppressed. There was no patriarchy. There was no general conspiracy. And feminists like to point to all these examples, like women couldn't vote, they couldn't own land, and yet they conveniently ignore obvious discrepancies in so-called equality. For example, even right now, okay, go ahead.
Hold on.
Pretty technical difficulty.
Hey, I'm being interviewed right now, so.
She's letting her significant other know to shut the hell up while she's being interviewed.
I'm being interviewed about a men's rights blog, so. I just thought I'd let you know. What? Oh, he said he's a feminist.
Oh, he's a feminist. Oh, we'd like to get his opinion too on this then.
He's not really a feminist.
So your significant other, you got permission from him to continue this interview?
No, I let him know.
Okay.
I didn't get permission. I let him know what I was doing.
I'm kidding you. Let's go.
I think that's fair.
I'd actually like to get his opinion too, but let's get back to this. So feminists make these claims that women are oppressed, they don't get these rights, but yet they never address the responsibility. For instance, just recently in the news, they are now passing laws, or they're now allowing women into combat. And so now there's opinion pieces being written about it's going to be hard to justify keeping women off the front lines now that they're saying there's no legal reason, there's no moral reason, etc. If women are supposedly equal to men, they should have to fight and carry the same responsibilities as men. So for all this time, feminists have never mentioned the fact that only men have to sign up and die in wars. Only men are required legally to sign up for selective service. So if there's a draft or some kind of war breaks out, only men are held accountable. Only men are responsible for defending the country. Women are completely absolved of that responsibility. So they don't talk about these huge, if you have to sacrifice your life for your country, I don't want to die for my country, but if I'm called to, I must, I'm compelled. It's my civic duty. It's my legal responsibility. So only men are compelled to do these things. So when they talk about, women not having rights to vote, not having rights to own land, they're also forgetting to mention the fact that men are required to care for women. If men are the only ones in the job workforce, obviously they're the only ones with the money. If they get into a relationship, they have to pay. That's where this tradition came about, where men have to pay for women on dates when they're courting, etc. And now women don't understand the hypocrisy of being able to come into the job workforce, which is traditionally male, take money out of that workforce, which should go to men to support those women. Now the women still want to abide by tradition, by chivalry, by the old rules where men had to pay for them, and yet they still want to make the same money as men. So how is that even anywhere near equality or fair? Or where's the fair play in that? If men can make $40,000 and women can make $40,000, why should the man now pay extra money to the woman? Why can't she pay her fair share? Well, women will say, "Oh, you're a cheap bastard. Oh, you're not romantic. Oh, why are you such a cheapskate?" When really the reality is women are cheapskates. They're being cheapskates by demanding that men pay more than their fair share, which means that women really don't want equality.
I think that, there is something to be said, a feminist not really knowing what direction they want. I'm not gonna say, like women as a whole. But you're right, there is a trend where women don't pay for the dates, and if a guy's not going to pay for the date, they protest. They're not happy with that, and that's not something what they want to do. I've encountered plenty of women that have been like this, and I think it's grotesque. I don't agree with it.
As a person who is on the receiving end of dating, I have first-hand experience, and we definitely hear stories from guys around the world. Since we're an international academy, we work with men around the world. We hear the same stories that the problem is, because feminism right now has a negative connotation, when you say feminist, immediately you think fat, ugly butch dyke, or angry woman who hates men. So even, women in Hollywood, they don't want to be termed a feminist, a person, because it carries this connotation of somebody who's bitter against men. But even though they don't want to be called feminist in name, they still espouse the same feminist dogma. For instance, we should get to vote, we should have equal rights as men, we should be considered the same as men on an equal playing field, and yet they still want to take advantage of privileges that they get as a result of tradition. For instance, you don't never hit a woman. The phrase "never hit a woman." I even hear that from men today. You're never supposed to hit a woman. Why isn't it you're never supposed to hit people? You're never supposed to hit a woman.
Right. I say equal rights, equal fights.
Equal rights, equal left, right? If you wanna put yourself in the position of a man and be considered equal to man, that means you need to bear the same responsibility as a man, which means if a man were to provoke another man, that man would get into a fight, then it should be no different for a woman. Even if, women will say, oh, I'm smaller than a man, he shouldn't hit a woman, I'm obviously smaller.
Right.
My claim to him or to her would be, well, obviously one of the men in a fight between two men is gonna be smaller. Just by virtue of, different sizes, right? But distinction, does that mean the smaller man gets a pass because he tried to pick a fight with a bigger man?
Right.
No, it would be unheard of. So, for women to use this argument like, I'm a woman, poor defenseless woman, especially you see in media stories whenever a man is committing domestic violence or so-called domestic violence, or there's a story where an athlete beats his girlfriend, it's always the 300-pound athlete beat the poor defenseless 96-pound woman. Why is there weight or gender relevant if women are equal? If women are equal, it should be a person hit another person.
It's true. I have an interesting anecdote about that kind of thing. I have a friend, and in about a road rage, this guy cut her off or something like that.
Right.
And she got out of the car and she hit the man. She assaulted the man. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then she gets back in her car. When she gets back into her car, the man follows her to her house.
Mm-hmm.
And he beats the shit out of her.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So
I'm gonna applaud the man on this one. Okay, keep going.
Right. So then she calls the cops.
Okay.
And the cops tell her that if you want to press charges on him, then you're gonna have to go to jail too.
Right. Understandable. Okay. They're both fighting each other.
Right. They gave her the opportunity to press charges or not. They didn't tell her, you're guilty.
Right, that's shocking, especially since she's instigating a fight by physically assaulting a guy.
Yes.
It's a ridiculous justice system.
It's ridiculous. It's not fair, and it is biased in the women's perspective. And, they don't realize it. I mean, they're always like, I want to be equal to a man, I want to be equal to a man. Well, personally, I believe that I am every much as equal to a man, except for evolutionary differences between men and women, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have to say. But then more so, I think that you should actually fight to get the same penalties that a man would get if you really want to be equal to a man. You should fight for the same responsibility. I'm
sad that it's even trickling down to the single mothers who are raising emasculated males. For instance, I saw a fight on a basketball court where a younger guy, he was 16 years old, tried to start a fight with an older guy, and the older guy was bigger than him, and would have beat the shit out of this guy. So this younger kid was talking trash to him, getting in his face, inciting a fight, saying, don't be a bitch, blah, blah, blah. And the other guy had enough of it, and he wanted to fight the younger guy, the younger, smaller guy. And the younger, smaller guy said, oh, what are you gonna do, hit a 16-year-old? That, to me, is the epitome of emasculation. It's the epitome of a guy who doesn't take accountability for himself. This is the same type of mindset we encounter even in the MRAs, in the men's rights activists. So many guys, I mean, it's pathetic. So many guys want to criticize Manhood Academy, our academy, and we welcome them. We say, look, if you want to criticize us, all we ask is that you come and live debate us, tell us how we're wrong, and let us respond to you. Let us have the opportunity to respond to you. But these keyboard warriors will come to our academy, will criticize us, say we're misogynistic, we hate women, will say our ebook is wrong, dating relationships doesn't work that way, you believe in these archaic views, and will level all these criticisms criticisms against us, but won't give us the opportunity to address them in a live formal debate or even an informal debate where we just talk back and forth, where we have some dialogue. They are too cowardly to hold themselves accountable for what they believe. So our position is we've offered an open challenge to any of the MRAs out there, from Paul Elam to anybody out there, to come face us in a live debate, and not one of these gutless, cowardly fucks has had the balls. I mean, we've had to face women who have more balls than the so-called men in the men's rights movement. And that's really why we have so many, that's really why there is an MRA movement. It's because the problem is not that they don't realize there's a problem. The MRAs definitely realize there's inequalities. But what the MRAs engage in is passive-aggressive whining, which amounts to, why are women being mean to us? If you look at all the posts on the blogs and forums, it's, look what these terrible women are doing. Oh, look at this woman has, when they're reporting on the story of the woman who made 11 false rape accusations, it's, look how evil this woman is. I can't believe she did this. She's so mean to us. And that's the extent of their story. It's not, how do we manage a relationship with a woman? How do I stand up to a woman? How do I get equal footing in a relationship with a woman? It's, look at how mean this woman is to us. Next story. And that's the majority of these stories are, look how mean women are to us. We can't do anything about it. We're emasculated. Whereas we're at least teaching men how to manage a relationship, how to have a successful relationship with a woman so that they don't even have to deal with these problems in the first place. If you know how to exercise authority over a woman in a relationship, you will have such a better relationship than the feminist notion of we should be equals in a relationship. Because we always see this in relationships with the so-called equals. When men and women have the same power in a relationship, it's like driving a car with two people have their hands on the steering wheel. I have my left hand on there, you have your right hand on there. The only problem is when we have to turn, we have to make a decision, there's always a power struggle. This is why equality in function never works. Now let me clarify what I mean when I say we're equal in relationships. Or I'm sorry, unequal in relationships. I mean that just, there you go, exactly just like you said. You have a womb. I don't have a womb. So you can bear a child, I can't bear a child. That doesn't mean I'm worth less than you. You still need my sperm to have a child, but it means we have different roles, but because we're both necessary, you're as necessary as I am to the relationship. If you aren't there, even if I can do 1,000 things, even if I'm the smartest, strongest guy, I still can't have a child because you have the womb. So you're a necessity to me. And even if you can only do one thing, and I can do 1,000 things, if I'm gone, I'm still a necessity to you. We can't have a relationship. So we work together in a relationship. We have different functions.
Yes.
And they're both equally necessary. So we have equal worth. We have equality of worth as persons. But we do not have equality in our functions. Just like you have a womb, you're the only one that can bear a child. I'm stronger than you, or generally speaking, men are going to be stronger than women. Yeah. Generally speaking, men are more intelligent than women. They're going to be designing cities. They're going to be designing societies. So we have our functions, but it's not to lord it over to you or say we're better than you or we hate you. It's so that we can function in a relationship. And this is what so many guys and so many girls don't understand. Women in feminist circles are taught, if you're lesser than a man, if you don't have the same career as him, if you're not as smart as him, if you're not as strong as him, you're not equal to him. You're not equal in worth. And this is such a damaging message. Same with men. They're taught the same thing.
Yeah. It is true that is very damaging. Because there's always going to be someone in a relationship who does something better, who, just like you said, everyone serves a function in their relationship. Even outside of the basic man-woman relationship, all relationships serve functions. And within that, each person has, their rightful part in making sure that that's a machine that works efficiently, you know? And my fiance is a lot smarter than I am. And he says that he respects my intelligence, and he says that, he doesn't associate with stupid people. And I love that. I do believe he's much smarter than I. He has a degree.
I think that's a misnomer. I don't think he should say that he doesn't associate with stupid people, because, that's stupid is really a slang way of saying not as educated. So when you're talking about stupid, it's not really like it shouldn't really be a value judgment of this person is worthless because they're stupid. It's saying this person isn't educated yet. So he should really be saying, and he really even shouldn't be saying, I don't associate with uneducated people. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to associate with women in general. He should be saying, I should be in charge of women, not I don't associate with women. That's a silly statement by your fiance. We would love to talk to him too about this. But what we're saying is, look, let's be frank here. Men should be making decisions because they're smarter. That's the reason why they have the capacity in the first place. whoever has the higher capacity has more responsibility. This is why women in relationships who are being taken care of by men feel safe and secure. They enjoy the relationship. Their libido is higher. If a man is in charge of you, your sexual libido reacts to the man's libido. It is you are 1,000 times more horny than if a guy is like, we're on equal playing fields and, you make just as many decisions as me and you're just as in charge as me, which is impossible. But just saying, if this guy has this attitude, the sex can be good, but it won't be on the same level as a guy who was in charge of you. I once dated a hardcore feminist who kept telling me, look, we're equal in relationships, we're equal in relationships. Until it came to the bedroom and she experienced what it was like to be taken charge of for the first time. And her mind was blown. She had nothing to compare it to. No other guy was like authoritative with her in the bedroom. And she didn't even realize what good sex was like or what a good relationship was like to be led by a man. There's nothing to compare it to in society today even. It's a very rare thing.
Women seek out, basically like the alpha male. And the reason they do that is because, if we think about when we were living in tribes or whatnot, the alpha male was the male who had the most resources, who had the greatest power, and he was the one that could take care of you the best. And I think that women still seek out men that are alpha males in whatever respect that they're in.
Well, I'm gonna completely disagree with you there, because we don't believe in the theory, or what we like to call the hoax of evolution at all. And this is also another problem that is preventing men from even getting into good relationships. We hear the silly concept of alpha males and beta males all the time. Not only in MRA circles, but in pickup artist PUA circles where they talk about be the alpha, be the alpha, be alpha, work out a lot, you're alpha, bench press a lot, you're alpha, act cool when you go in the bar, be aloof, don't chase her, that be the alpha, do the alpha thing. But the problem with this mindset is that when men think that they can be alpha, they're always trying to attain this mythical status when they don't even realize that it's not about being alpha. If anything, I would be considered an alpha male. But I, of all people, know that the notion of an alpha male is a myth, because I work with men on a daily basis and I've seen men go from the so-called beta mentality or beta appearance, presentation, demeanor to the alpha mentality. So if this was really an evolutionary thing, there would be no changing of station. You would be born a beta or you'd be born an alpha, just like, there's that number, theory that, 1 out of every 20 males is a born leader and the other 19 are followers, some bullshit like that. So it implies that there's an evolutionary reason for you being a beta male or you being a lesser male. That means that there's no possibility for you to even become this so-called alpha male if you believe in this evolutionary nonsense.
What I mean when I say alpha male is, a man that provides, a man that is strong. It can be physically or...
Okay, let's say a man is weak.
In his ability.
Let's say a man is weak. What are we talking about when we're strong or weak? Because I'm sure I'm, maybe of an average strength, and there's guys who are maybe, shorter than me, maybe 5'2", that are not as strong as me, and I'm sure there are guys that are super yoked that are super strong. Now that I'm of average strength, how does that hinder my ability to lead a relationship with a woman? How does that hinder my ability?
Well, strength can be defined in a physical sense, and back then that would have been very good because you needed that in order to hunt. You needed that in order to fight other males, because there's always been a fight.
Well, we're still fighting other males. I mean, back then, if you could have a really strong guy, and if he has a sword, maybe if he's twice the size of you, he can cut you, but if you can invent a bow and arrow, he's not going to have a lot of chance to even attack you. Just like today, it doesn't take any power. You can be a scrawny guy and push a nuclear button and
That's true.
annihilate another nation. So strength is it's irrelevant in a global sense, but in a personal sense, yes, you still need to be strong to open a peanut butter jar or to fix a tire.
Right. And the strength has to do with how you can assert your power. And, from what you're talking about on your opinions of male dominance, which I do believe that males are typically more dominant than females. I really do believe that. And I think that
they are in capacity wise, because they have such a great capacity compared to women in various areas, they are meant to be dominant because a lot of guys today are raised by single mothers, you see just the opposite. You see dominant women. I see a lot of dominant women today versus dominant males. I don't see very many dominant males at all.
Right. And I'm someone who believes, I'm someone that believes that, in raising a child, there should be kind of both gender roles. I'm not saying that a man and a man can't have a baby and the baby turn out fine, or a woman can't have a baby and the baby turn out fine. But I'm saying that I think that you need to mix the equal parts, male and female.
There definitely needs to be a mixing because okay. Number one, let's talk about, it's unnatural for two men or two women to raise a baby because if a man and a woman, or I'm sorry, a man and a man or a woman and a woman were trapped on an island, there's no way they could even have a baby without artificial insemination. So we know that it's a complete falsehood to say that it's normal to have a man or a woman raising a child. You couldn't even have the child in the first place. Okay, you have to go to artificial sperm bank to even produce a child. That's number one. Number two, you have a nurturing function as a woman. I don't have that as a man. The child is going to miss out on you nurturing him as a woman versus the way I take care of him as a man. I am more authoritative in my approach. I am more direct. I am more exacting. This is also why men should be disciplining children in relationships, not women. Women have the more motherly, nurturing role, taking care of the boo-boos, those type of things. And a child needs both of those things. If you restrict that from a child and you don't give them that, you see a lot of problems. For instance, we see the mother side, what happens with single mothers remove men from the equation. You see a lot of guys who are super concerned with their feelings, how things feel, how things make them feel.
I don't so much agree on that though.
Well, let me finish my point. Okay. There's a lot of guys, maybe they don't outwardly show it, but I talk to these guys on a daily basis and they're concerned with, they'll do things if they feel like doing it. They're very, in a sense, they're maybe not as expressive with their feelings, but they're very in touch with their feelings in that their lives are run by their feelings. Just like women, they want to do things according to how they feel. So this is the single mother influence. There is no discipline because everything is done on a whim. It's how I feel is how I act. Whereas when you have fathers who discipline their children, they are taught to do what is necessary versus what they feel like doing. And then you see where guys develop self-discipline, where they're able to forego, let's say they feel sick, they go to work, or they don't feel like working out, they still do it because they're disciplined, or they resist eating 12 donuts because, again, they know how to reject how they feel and do what is necessary. So we see the influence of both sides, and we see the problems when you remove that. If you remove the dad, you have guys that just know how to, go with their feeling, do what's, work according to their whims, which is most guys today. And very rarely, you don't see on the flip side, is when a guy is just raised by his dad, you don't get the feeling side. You just get, what should we do? What is required right now? Not, where are my feelings in this whole equation? Where's my humanity in this? Which is an essential component that women bring to any relationship. You can't have just one or the other. You must have both in a relationship, especially for a child.
Yeah, I think that sometimes when males are raised without a male influence, they will actually try to overcompensate for that lack of male influence. And it's not like you said, in my opinion. I believe that there are cases of that where the male becomes,
let me tell you from direct experience, that's dead wrong. Guys maybe 1 out of 1,000 may try to overcompensate, but for the most part, those guys raised by women are very passive. They're very passive aggressive. They're very sarcastic. They're not very authoritative at all. This is how I know, like, if a guy is a certain way, when I talk to a guy in the beginning, I will guess, just based on his demeanor and how he presents himself, whether he's raised by a man or a woman. And 9 times out of 10, if he's very passive and very docile, is very indefinite, can't make a decision, is very conflicted, very emotional, this type of guy is raised by a single mother. It's not an accident. So the guy you're talking about, the overcompensating guy, isn't the norm for a guy raised by a single mother.
Well, I could have a subjective view because I grew up pretty much in impoverished areas. I grew up in...
Yeah, but I'm telling you from the view of working with guys around the world, not just in one section.
I understand that, and I'm talking, I am admitting that I could have my own subjective opinion on this because of my experience and what I've witnessed, and I do think that, men that are living in the ghetto are eager to, they're eager to put on a facade.
Okay, okay. I understand what you're saying, and let me address that. Let's talk about black culture, which is really, it really represents ghetto culture or any kind of poor neighborhood. Sure. A lot of in America particularly, a lot of rappers, guys in the hood, raised by single mothers, and they exactly do what you say. There is that overcompensation. So it's almost like two things. Okay, let's break it up. You're actually correct, and I want to restate what I said to incorporate that. Okay. It's not that there aren't these emasculated guys. There are a lot of these emasculated guys. The difference is with the ghetto culture, when you have the poorer cultures, or, like black culture, as an example. African American culture. I'll put my air quotes up. These guys are definitely overcompensating. But they're dealing with other variables than just not having the father. They're also dealing with gangs,
yes.
rough neighborhood. When you're in the ghetto, it's dog eat dog. So,
survival. Yes.
Exactly. What I'm talking about specifically is more the richer or middle class type cultures, typically the white culture. But this is guys who their parents have access to some money, or they're not in a totally violent environment where guys are hitting them up for money, or there's constant like fights, physical altercations like Chicago, Detroit, any of these rough towns. So there's a different mentality, but the same emasculation still exists. It's just a different form of that emasculation. For example, you could have the toughest rapper, the toughest, ghetto, street fighter, etc. But when it comes to a woman, he bends over back. He's like a little lost puppy. Baby, I love you. I mean, a prime example is, okay, if you look at emasculated guys in cultures that aren't super duper poor, you see very effeminate, almost like emo faggish type guys who are very, listen to Elliott Smith, doom and gloom, blow their hair long in front. Okay, you see that type of emasculation. But in the ghetto, you can see a tough guy, a guy who works out, has tats, is, in a gang. But look at the women in that culture. Look at how brazen I mean, I was just watching, I was looking at videos for this, upcoming video we're making, so I was looking at clips, and I found clips of women fighting in Denny's, and it's insane, the level of rash, bravado, women in the ghetto culture compared to men. I mean, yes, men will wear loud chains and talk shit, but these chicks are just out of their fucking minds, throwing glass things, breaking things, challenging guys to fights. I mean, I put a clip in there of these two women, and women, in general aren't even, they're not the size of a full-grown man, but they're raised with this hood mentality, this hood rat mentality, and they're trying to fight this guy, and they're getting punched in the face, they're getting knocked out. This guy could clearly, obviously take both of them at once, but they still have the nerve because of the culture they're raised in, where they think a man won't hit them. They're trying to shame this guy like, oh, how dare you hit a woman, while trying to instigate a fight with him. So,
I think black females are very, very strong.
It's not just the strength, but it's the fact that they have this mentality like, number one, you're not supposed to hit me. Perfect example was, Mary J. Blige, the famous R&B singer.
Right.
She has a domestic violence foundation for women.
Yes, she does.
And she has a husband who she's hitting in the face and telling him, while she's hitting him, what are you gonna do, Chris Brown me? Well, how can she have the nerve to say that? And she's running
I've never heard about this.
It's in a video. You don't even need to hear about it. We have a video posted on our site. She's running a battered women's shelter, and she has the nerve to talk about, her husband. Are you gonna Chris Brown me? While she's hitting this guy in the face, and it's on video. The brazen attitude, the hypocrisy of women in this, in the ghetto culture. So you see, it's really comparative. So we shouldn't compare like men from this poor culture who are emasculated to men in like a less rough and tumble culture. Their emasculation, it's just a different form of that emasculation. But compared to the women,
a generalization like that, you've got to have every subculture involved.
Well, yes, but it doesn't mean that they're not emasculated. You just see a different form of the emasculation. For example, the men are in the upper to higher, upper class cultures or upper class income bracket, whatever you want to call it, are more passive. They're more passive. They're not as aggressive. Whereas the males in the in the ghetto culture are more aggressive to other males, comparatively speaking, but compared to their women, they're more passive than their women.
I would say they probably are. Yeah, I think I've seen that a lot.
So it's not that these men aren't, are completely different. If we look at on the surface, yes, it appears that these, the African American culture, the black guys are more aggressive and not emasculated compared to these, these pussy white guys, but that's not true at all. It's just that the emasculation takes a different form. If you look at the black women, like, they're one of the least, we ask guys all the time, and it's like, well, dating a black girl is almost like a nightmare. I mean, they did a survey on OkCupid. Black women are the least desirable because they have in the ghetto culture, they are the most aggressive. They are the most aggressive. They are it's like a man. It's basically like dealing with a man with tits.
It's an aesthetic thing too. I mean, they've done studies that show that Asian men and African women are the least sought after physically.
Asian men and African, you know why? Asian men are very emasculated. I don't know if you know this.
Not going there.
Look, but yes, the culture is irrelevant. It's really what I'm sorry, I should say the ethnicity is irrelevant, not the culture. The culture is very relevant. I said that completely backwards.
Understandable.
The Asian culture is very passive. I'll tell you what, if Asians suddenly changed races with blacks, and blacks behaved exactly like Asians, and Asians behaved exactly like blacks, you would see Asians quickly rising in the desirability demographic with women, and blacks quickly falling. You really don't realize how different the culture is until you see a person in a different culture. For instance, if your only experience with black culture is American black culture, and you've never seen a British black guy, it's like night and day. It's like the cadence, how they speak. It throws you off because like for me, I'm from America. I grew up with guys playing basketball or black, and if I hear a black, I know it's supposed to sound, what's up like this. Well, what do you want? You want somebody? So it's this aggressive attitude. Whereas if you see a black guy in Britain, hello mate, good day, it's like, if you close your eyes, you think that's a white guy, that's not a black guy, because you're looking at the skin color. You don't realize how powerful the cultural influence is. Similarly, if you see an Asian guy, just because I know what Asian culture is like, I can kind of guess what his demeanor is going to be like. And 9 times out of 10, it's that demeanor, and it fits the stereotype. Versus if you take an Asian guy and you just completely remove him from his culture and put him in a different culture. You don't know what
you're going to get. You have no idea.
There's some guys you meet, or some people you meet, who are just, you're like, that guy's not from that culture. He just does not act the same way as what I've normally seen. And you see that cultural influence is so strong. So it plays over. So now when you meet an Asian, because you've met so many Asians who are just like that, you naturally assume, he's going to be that way. So when women say they're not dating Asian men, it's not that they're dating individually, they're not dating Asian men, it's that they're not dating the Asian culture. That's really what they should be saying. They're not dating the Asian culture.
I can say that that's probably true. I can say that's agreeable. I mean, I can understand that. But I do hear something that I have heard, but I haven't heard it from Asian men, really, per se, is that, Asian women are very subservient. Okay.
Oh, again, culturally speaking, they're not subservient innately. The culture is subservient, where it trains women to be subservient.
And the American men that I know that have married Asian women have gone on to say that their attitude did a 180 when they came to America.
That's a prime example. Like, everybody talks about, I want an Asian wife because they're so submissive. They don't realize it's not that the Asians are submissive, it's that their culture is submissive, because when you take a mail order bride and bring her to America, they say she gets Americanized, which really means she switches culture, she adopts the norm, the social expectations of women here. And women here have a terrible culture. I mean, women in the U.S. have a terrible reputation because the culture is so bad. The culture for women here is bad.
It is true. I mean, there's a lot that goes on, I think, within the culture of women. And I really think it's confusing what women want for other women and what men want for women. And I think that may be somewhere that you're coming from, is that what women want for women isn't necessarily what men want for women. And this causes problems.
It's exactly
this causes a problem in the relationships. And then I will dare say that feminists go on to put women down for not behaving in the way that they do.
When you say, that's exactly what I mean. When you say that what women want for other women, you could just very well replace that with what feminists want from other women, because,
and you can do the same with men.
In general, when women want women to behave a certain way, it's not innately how they want them to behave, it's how they were taught to behave. And how they were taught to behave is very aggressive and feministic. It's very much, I need to be in control of the relationship. I need to be in charge of the man. It's trying to be the man in the relationship. It's trying to take the male function, the male role. That is the problem, because men want just the opposite. And if they really wanted a functional relationship, they wouldn't be asking women what women want. They would be asking what men want, because they're trying to get in a relationship with other men, not other women. So to get an opinion on what a guy wants from another woman is absurd. Women obviously don't understand. It's obvious that women don't have the same reasoning capacity as men, because they couldn't even figure this out. It's such a simple concept, because men all the time, they always ask women, what do you want? I mean, it's just, even though it's a bad idea, it's a natural inclination. If you're trying to figure out how to date that other gender, you generally want to get the opinion of the gender to say, what am I doing right or wrong, or what should I do to get you? I mean, that's just a natural, common sense inclination to do that. The fact that women don't go to men to find out what men want, it's almost absurd.
Where we talked about gender roles, I have to say, I don't think that, men are inherently smarter than women, or, women are inherently stupid, but I do think that they have different forms of intelligence.
We claim that that's complete bullshit. We've heard of the emotional intelligence argument.
I think that it serves a purpose. I think that, I won't say that intuition is matter of fact science, but I think that women think a lot with their feelings, and that will lead them to come to a different conclusion than a man who's
Right.
thinking with pure fact.
We typically call that the wrong conclusion in reality, because our feelings will change on a whim. I mean, for a woman to have a intuitive feeling about something, if there's no basis for that feeling, I mean, men have intuitive feelings too, and that's typically why they fail in life, when they go by how they feel. For instance, I feel like eating a donut right now. I mean, it's a so-called intuitive feeling in me to crave a sweet thing, but it's not necessarily what I should do. And I know by principle that if I eat certain foods, they will lead to a certain body type. So I don't allow my feeling to be the basis for why I would make that decision. That's why we say there's no such thing as emotional intelligence. There is just intelligence. Intelligence does not need a qualifier to make. Emotion would destroy intelligence. If I added emotion into the equation, there would be no basis for even making this reason. For instance, if I was using my intelligence to figure out a math problem and add 10 matches to, or 5 matches to 5 matches over here, then if I brought my emotions in the equation, it would say, well, how many matches do I feel are over here? Not versus how many are actually over there. So emotions would actually wreck my ability to reason intelligently.
I understand where you're coming from with that, and I do understand that. I think that, maybe it's not completely an emotional intelligence, but I think that it is an aspect of, just assessing situations that is important. And I don't think that you should make a lot of decisions based on your intelligence. Not on your intelligence, on your emotion. I think that people often come down to two things. They either feel too much or they think too much.
I don't think there's such a thing as thinking too much. I can't think of one decision in life that I would benefit just by going to a woman and saying, how do you feel about this thing? I can't think of one decision in life where it's more beneficial to say to a woman or to get a woman's opinion and say, how do you feel about this versus what do I think about this?
Yeah, and I can understand that.
I can't think of one decision. Can you think of one decision in life that you would make and say, well, let's get a woman's emotional so-called intelligence opinion on this? What decision? Give me an example.
I think there's some, if you think about whether to euthanize someone or not.
Whether to euthanize somebody.
That's a huge thing. I mean, if you can't, there's some things you can't put entirely on logic, because you could say, okay, well, if we decide to unplug this person, then we are going to have to just let it go, whatever. If we don't decide to unplug this person, what we'll do is we'll have to fire a lot of debt, and that's going to suck. But in the same, there is a chance that they could come out of this coma. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of.
So how would we use a woman's so-called emotional intelligence to figure out the best solution here?
Because you would have to go above and beyond the logic. I mean, the logic would say.
Okay, so we throw out, what would logic say? By the way, I don't believe in logic because logic is a formalized, it has its own problems, but I would use reason, but we'll kind of, just for semantics, we won't care. Alright, the rationale.
Okay, so the rationale would say that, they might not come out, and we might just keep on firing this debt until they're dead.
Okay, so the rationale, in your belief, only covers, the financial aspect here.
It covers the financial aspect, but it also covers the fact that they could,
they could come out of the coma.
They could come out of the coma.
Okay, that's another rational consideration.
Right.
Alright, so rationality only covers their payment.
You win.
Okay,
you totally win. I call it. I was wrong.
You tap out. Okay, good. Thank you.
I admit it.
This is why men should be in charge. We use our brains. We believe that this public scrutiny is so necessary to get to the truth of a matter. We should just leave it out in the air.
I don't represent all women, and I think there are some very, very, very intelligent women out there. I'll use Elizabeth Warren as an example.
I would love to debate Elizabeth Warren into the ground. Let her know. She wants to debate. I'll debate her into the ground. Let her know we're here.
Do you have her financial, intelligence? Do you think you have her political intelligence?
I don't need her political or financial intelligence because intelligence does not require a qualifier. There's no emotional intelligence. There's no political intelligence. There's no, economic intelligence. There's only intelligence. There's only the ability to rationalize and reason about things. And then once you have that ability, that discipline, then you can apply it to situations such as an economic situation, such as a relationship, an emotional situation, such as the economy, etc. So it's not that I need to become, or apply a different form of intelligence to working with the economy. No, I need to be able to be rational first. Here's the great thing about being rational. If I'm rational and disciplined in my thinking, in my reasoning capacity, somebody could teach me about the economy, and I could be just as bright about the economy as anybody on the planet because I understand the principle at work here. If I'm just like I'm understanding how the principle of gravity works, how
Right,
physics works. I can apply that to many areas of life.
I would like to ask you, have you ever met a woman that was more intelligent than you?
Not yet, but I will leave that possibility open.
Do you think that even by saying that you could be ignorant? Because ignorant by
Well,
definition, hold on. Ignorant by definition is uneducated. Do you think that you could be ignorant as to whether women can be smarter than men or not because you have never been educated with a woman that you perceive as smarter than you?
okay, here's the thing. Here's how I would discount that argument, rationally speaking.
Okay.
In order for us to determine who would be smarter, we would have to know who had the ability to do what with their information. For instance, if I know what 2 plus 2 is, great. Or if I know what the capital of Alaska is, great. But that doesn't do anything. That doesn't accomplish anything. It's just a dead fact. I have to be able to do something with my knowledge. That would make me intelligent. If I just knew something, if I just knew what that thing floating around the Earth was called, the moon.
You're an idiot savant.
Well, it just means I know something, but that doesn't necessarily make me an intelligent person. I can't do anything with that information. So we have to establish a criteria for what's intelligent first. Now that we've established that, you have to be able to do something with what you know. Now I have to see, is there a woman out there who has the capacity to do something
with
more?
her intelligence.
Yeah, can she accomplish something? Is she accomplishing something significant? For instance, let's say a woman knows how to blend her eyeshadow with her foundation, right? So it looks aesthetically pleasing on her face. And I don't know how to do that. Well, she may have more knowledge of makeup and she may have more ability to combine that, that foundation with that mascara. She may have that ability to do that, and I may not have that ability, but is it significant? Is it worthwhile? Is it something which we value? No. So then we have to say, well, the person who would be the most intelligent would have to be able to do something with what they know to accomplish or achieve something significant, which is important to all of us. So with that criteria, no, I have not met a smarter woman yet. Like I said, when I've met a smarter woman, it will have to be scrutinized. This is why these types of conversations are so important, because if I was just in my own house and I only talk to myself, I could believe I'm the smartest person on earth. But as soon as I start interacting with other people, there's going to be other opinions, there's going to be other views, and I'm going to have to account for why my views don't mesh with their views. That's why critical scrutiny is so important, because we can get so many eyes on the subject, on our thinking, on our thought process, and they can scrutinize and say, why do you believe this? Well, what about this flaw here? Well, what about this? Did you account for this? And if we have all these eyes on our views and our perspectives, we can then say with confidence, oh, what I believe isn't insanity because other people are verifying this. Other people are vouching for what I'm saying. Other people have this experience too. It's not a foreign experience.
Here's my next question then. Intelligence is measured by your ability to receive knowledge in a way. So do you think that you're being detrimental to your own intelligence by saying that there is no intelligence that you can get from a woman?
I'm not saying that women aren't intelligent. You're not hearing me. I'm saying I haven't met a woman who is as intelligent as me. And again, it's like saying, you're really asking me a bad question, because it's like implying that women should be, it's like implying that women should be as intelligent as men, as if that's their function. It isn't. That's the reason why women are as intelligent as men.
Function. Don't you think?
It's like saying, have you ever met a man who can produce as much sperm as you? No, because your function is not to produce sperm. That's the same question you're essentially asking me. Have you met a woman who's as intelligent as you? Or have I met a woman who's as strong as me? No, because that would defeat the point of my male function. I have strength because I have certain responsibilities that go along with having that capacity, that strength capacity. Just like I have certain responsibilities that go along with being more intelligent than a woman.
I have to ask, do you break down intelligence into different sectors? Because I can say very well that I do believe that men excel more in math and science than women. I can say that very well.
I can say that too. I agree with that.
Right. But then I can also say that if we look one step further, we'll see that usually women are the ones who excel in reading comprehension.
I would say that's completely false. I would say that's completely false.
I don't believe that.
Our best philosophers are men.
Of course.
Ayn Rand doesn't even hold Rand doesn't hold a candle to our greatest philosophers.
Are you familiar with Hypatia?
Who's Hypatia?
Hypatia was a brilliant natural philosopher, and she helped develop a lot of stuff that we have in math and science today. She was also, a brilliant philosopher. She's not as recognized. No, she's not Aristotle. She's not Socrates, but she was one of the brilliant, philosophers that gave us the foundations of what we know in education today.
What did she give us that we didn't already get from a man? What philosophy?
I believe she was one of the people that helped develop the Pythagorean theorem. And then
She developed the Pythagorean theorem, not Pythagoras? I would beg to differ.
she helped. I said she helped.
Did she make sandwiches for him? Because I'm pretty sure she had nothing to do with the Pythagorean theorem.
No, but she did help. She did.
How so? Where are you getting this information?
Well, that was from philosophy.
From
philosophy.
Number one, the problem with taking or getting information from academic courses is that academia is controlled by feminists. You want to be able to get your information from reasoning, from multiple sources, and not just from a classroom, because classrooms today are notoriously dominated by women, and it's just it's a lot of bullshit revisionist history. I mean, the so-called historical facts that I've heard from women are absurd, and they're getting them from classrooms. They're absurd.
I have to ask, the feminists believe in the male patriarch. Do you believe in the female patriarch?
What's the female patriarch?
I'm saying, if you believe that education is controlled by feminists, do you believe that there's a female patriarch?
A female patriarch?
Right, it would be the exact paradox of the male patriarch. That's what I'm saying.
What does that mean?
The feminists believe in the imaginary male patriarch.
Yeah, but there are male, you don't understand, there are male and female feminists. Like, the women use sex as a weapon in this feminist game. And the men who are raised by single mothers are the lawmakers, are the enforcers who pass control from men into women's hands. So there's a concerted operation. It's not that they're conspiring with one another, but by virtue of a man being raised by a woman solely, as in the case of single mothers, just like Barack Obama, notorious example of a mangina raised by a single mother, he is now espousing the views of a single mother. I mean, he's not even bright enough to realize that the wage gap is a complete and utter farce. I mean, there are noted economists who have debunked this time and again, and we've done it ourselves. And yet the president of the free world, who has access to all this information, is still espousing a view that's been debunked 1 billion times over.
I think that it's kind of like, it's patronizing in a way. I think it's like patronizing to women to say that, women need so much special attention. And I think the government, especially Barack Obama, who did, what was his agenda with the girls going to school? Do you remember that?
Well, he's got an unconstitutional council for women and girls, as if they need more of a push. We already got affirmative action. We have Title X in college. We have all these bullshit policies that are just meant to favor women and give them a head start over men, and yet we send the hypocritical message that women are equal. I mean, it's so absurd to have all these legal and social policies, and yet to tell women, or to tell men and women, you guys are exactly equal, but by the way, we're just going to give a push to women for no other reason that we're equal. Well, what? Your gender?
You have a Y chromosome, and you have a penis. I do think, like, as a woman in America, I have an X chromosome and a vagina.
Right.
I do think as a woman in America, I actually have more opportunities than you as a man because of the way that the government has been skewed.
I agree with you 100%. Okay. And this is not a patriarch per se as like a Wonder Woman, or there's some figure, some beacon where all the conspiracies are surrounding. No, it's the culture. It's when a generation of men, either because of wars where husbands went off and died, or, husbands or whoever is producing babies with women are irresponsible and leave them, whichever case it is, or, as we all see today, where women initiate the majority of divorces because of the feminist laws allow for it, that now you have a culture, a generation of men who are raised by women. So they're adopting these female views, these irresponsible, childish views, and they are passing laws based on these views, just like we have the Equal Wage Act, which women have to be paid now, when it's shown that women, I mean, these are the labor statistics from the government that show that women aren't working the same number of hours in the same difficult and demanding jobs as men, and yet now we should pay them the same, which essentially means we should pay them more than men.
Right.
So,
that is true.
If we're passing these types of laws, we're seeing that, things that are championed, like the Violence Against Women Act, championed by Joe Biden, at mangina raised by women. He's telling stories of, my sister used to beat me up. I mean, if this is the type of view, he's the leader, he's the vice president, and he's talking about, he's nonchalant about getting beat up by his sister and women controlling his life. What type of message does that send to the men under him, who are supposed to be under his authority? It says, you're a pussy, you're worthless, women are worth more than you. That's essentially the message he's sending. So he's emasculating the generation after him. This emasculation is being passed down from generation to generation. But at some point, there's a tipping point. Like right now, we're seeing where there's more men's groups, men's rights groups, pickup artists, whatever type of group you have that has a male label that's for men.
Yeah.
you're starting to see the backlash. And you don't see, the reason why you don't see it out loud is because, number one, media, definitely liberal, feminist bent, it's controlled by women, but where you do see it, and why people are, or why men are forsaking television shows that are just catered to women, the vagina box, you're now seeing entertainment on the internet that is male oriented, because it's not that men haven't lost their ability to reason, or men can't see these inconsistencies and hypocrisies in the government or in the laws. It's that now they're taking their show to the internet where they can freely express these things in blogs, online, 4chan, Reddit.
It's viewed as controversial if men talk about...
You would never see these things discussed in the media. I mean, our perspective, you just won't see it in the media, even though we have so many guys that give us positive comments on our videos, along with granted there's gonna be a horde of manginas and white knights who are gonna tell us we're evil and we hate women. There's a ton of guys who are like, I've never even heard that before. I'm so shocked. Thank you for your videos. I never even considered that perspective. I mean, these things are not new considerations, new concepts, but they are new to this generation of men who has no access to them.
Right. I have to ask, basically, at this point in time, 50% more women are going to college than men.
Right.
Okay.
50%? No, well, it's a higher number, but yes, more women are graduating than men, yes, in higher education.
Right. So, here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you do believe that, men are smarter than women, or have more capacity to become smart, I'll say that. I'll give you that. I like that. Mm-hmm. If you do say that,
why aren't men graduating in higher numbers?
No. That's not my question.
Okay.
My question is, do you think that men need masculinism in order to protect that capability that they have? And is that why
they don't? It's an innate thing. It's like a womb. You don't need your womb protected. You're born with a womb, so it's not like you could ever diminish a male's capacity. That's just by virtue of his design. He has that capacity to reason. So that doesn't need protection, but it definitely needs nurturing. It needs training.
Yes. And is that why you feel the need for there to be a group like this?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if we didn't, number one, I needed to see the need first in myself. There was no resources for me. I was looking around. I didn't know it.
How did you see that need in yourself? Can I ask?
Yeah, I had trouble forming relationships. I mean, as a guy dating, you're just taught, well, just do everything she says. Take her out to dinner, be a nice guy, and it'll work out. No, just the opposite. She's not returning my calls. She wants to break up with me. She just doesn't like me. I'm like, what? How does this even happen? Well, then you see it in other guys and you think, first you just think it's you. Then you start realizing, oh wait, there's a generation of men there's other guys that having a similar experience. Why? And then you start seeing other things and you realize all this time you've been looking for answers and there are no answers because there's no groups. Nobody's telling you this stuff. I mean, I had to learn this stuff the hard way. And if I'm learning this, I'm seeing other guys who are experiencing the exact same problems. There's guys that are depressed, committing suicide,
it's true.
Have no direction in life, can't choose a major, can't find a job because they're so timid, they're so passive. I have a guy who can't hold a job because he doesn't know how to manage relationships in the job. He's so much tension, so much anxiety. This affects his ability to work. I mean, these things shouldn't be happening for guys, but they are because men are in such poor condition today. And the worst part is the majority of men don't even realize it. They're like me. They're just kind of figuring either they're the problem and they just gotta get over it, man up, so to speak, or they just gotta figure it out somehow, magically just figure out how to date women. Women are always telling men, hey, I mean, we have a generation of men raised solely by single mothers, solely by women. You would think of all people, they would have intimate knowledge of dating because obviously the mom's gonna raise them to, figure out how to date, and behave, right? They got control. Right. Well, guess what? Who do you think raises the most violent felons that end up behind bars? Single mothers. So,
and then we have to go back to the subculture there. I think that we would, okay, I'm gonna take that back. I'm really gonna take that back. I don't think that is just within the subculture.
No, not at all.
Statistics on that though. It's interesting.
You should look that up. Look up how many prisoners behind bars are raised by single mothers.
Single mothers. I think that's a good
horrible.
thing.
It's horrible.
But don't you think that just goes back to the like I said earlier, the overcompensating?
No, because it takes a lot of, there's a lot of ways to end up behind jail. Sure, you can, get there by being, but, we should look at the types of people who are ending up behind jail. Like, the most violent of felons have the highest self-esteem. Isn't that shocking? You always think that you hear this campaign in schools. You gotta watch out for your self-esteem. You gotta make sure your self-esteem is up. Guess who has the most fucking self-esteem? The guys that want to beat your ass in. Because they don't give a fuck about you. They only care about themselves. They've been taught, hey, I'm the greatest. I'm special. I'm super. And that means they're not taught to consider you. So, the most violent people are the people with the highest self-esteem. So why are we training people? Why are we telling our young boys, you need to worry about your self-esteem? Yeah, don't worry about getting a fucking job. Don't worry about being smart. Don't worry about being educated. Make sure you feel good. I mean, this is the type of message we send.
Pretty high self-esteem.
You know why I have high self-esteem?
Yes.
It's because I'm skilled. I have confidence based on my competence, what I can do. I know I can do certain things. That's why I feel confident in doing them. Just like I know how to socialize with you. I know how to run a relationship because I have experience. So I'm confident running a relationship with you. I'm not just confident because I'm taught to feel good. Whereas most guys have no skill. Just like a violent felon doesn't have a lot of skills, especially relationship skills, but he feels great about himself.
Right.
I don't feel great about myself just because I'm a man. I feel great because I can do something in a relationship. If I were forced into a relationship with you, I would be able to make you happy, no question. Because I have the ability. I know how to run a relationship. I know how to make a woman happy in a relationship.
I have to ask, within looking at all of this, what is your background? Do you have a single mother parent?
Yes, actually I do. I have intimate knowledge of how horrible single mothers are because I too was raised by a single mother. I was an emasculated puss growing up.
Okay, and now my next question is, what vulnerabilities do you have now that you have changed, your whole outlook on everything?
What vulnerabilities? I don't understand the question.
So, even though you've changed your outlook on, your own masculinism and all of that, what vulnerabilities do you feel like you still possess? What have you not gotten over that you...
Oh, what have I not, what do I still retain?
Yeah.
I don't know if I think if you're living in the culture, you're obviously influenced, just like you're obviously influenced by advertising. You may know that it's wrong to buy a can of Coke because it's just sugar water. But if you see people on TV and billboards and your buddies are all drinking a Coke on a hot day, you're going to want to drink a Coke. So, I know there's problems with feminism. It's ridiculous. It's a fraudulent philosophy. I know how men should be acting and they should be in charge of relationships, but you can't help but just be influenced by just seeing how the majority of men run their relationships, the things you see on TV and movies, how they portray, female characters always portrayed as kicking ass and beating up men, and men are portrayed as dorks and losers.
There's now. Yeah.
So you see this, so it affects my mood, it affects my outlook, my perspective, how hopeful I am. I mean, these things have a lot of influence on me, and I, of all people, know these things because I teach these things to men around the world. So even I see the damaging influence on myself and how I perceive things. So it's not necessarily, where, I'm so worried about, will I let this woman walk all over me in a relationship, or I let women take advantage of me. I won't know how to stand up for myself. I'm not so worried about that as just the general perspective, the general, how my, mental health is just by walking around in a world where we're taught that we shouldn't do anything that would, make women feel bad.
Right.
So this type of thing that's enforced by society, by social expectations, legally, I mean, it's a lot to handle or to hand to any guy, let alone even a guy who's trained like me. But, I went 30 minutes over because it was such a good time talking to you.
All right. Well, it was good talking to you, and it was interesting to hear such like a counterculture kind of perspective.
You know what? I would love to talk to you again. If you want to have another interview, or you just want to stop by our chat room and just ask questions or just hang out, feel free. We'll be there.
Cool. I thought this was a good conversation.
I enjoyed your time. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.